right. Welcome, Seacoast podcast listeners. If you're not watching on YouTube or you're not a patron watching live, I'm here with Jack Hoy the third, so the lesser and the younger, and then Lynn Stroy. What's up, Lynn?
What's up?
What's up? What's up, Jack?
Yo.
So I put this sweater on for the first time in a long time, and check this out. I should have had this pocket ready. I went into this pocket.
You just put your hands in both pockets, so I don't know where else there is to go.
Did I go both pockets? Where did I put it? Well, I don't know where I put the daggum thing. I think but anyway, I found...
This is great. This is quality.
I found a mask from 2020. Do y'all ever discover masks?
No?
It's just been in there. I don't know. You have?
I'll tell you, I was cleaning out my desk, like in my office this weekend, and I found, because I kept it, I kept two things. One, I kept my my vaccination card.
Yeah.
Just because I think it's important to keep a record of the dystopian, moments that we share. But I also got do you guys remember the mailer that went out in like March or April? And it was like, it said like Donald Trump's plan or announcement concerning coronavirus.
I never got
And I remember
that.
just looking at that, it's like, if you could show that to someone from the 90s.
Yeah.
Right? Like President Donald Trump's plan for the pandemic. There is nothing you could do to convince them that was a real thing. And I just remember staring at it thinking like, this is the craziest thing I've ever gotten in the mail, and I'm going to keep it forever. So I still have that.
When y'all think of 2020, does it bring any sort of emotions? Like for me, and it's weird, this didn't really happen until I was far enough removed from it. Like it did feel heavy, but I've told people before, that was 2020, so it was right after the worst year of my life, 2019, mental health crisis and all. So while people were saying, oh man, 2020 is the worst year ever, I was saying, no, not quite. But the further I'm removed from it, I'm like, that really was a heavy time. And I think two reasons for me is, even though I'm an introvert, at the very least, it was probably heavy for me not having access to people. I just didn't realize it because I'm introverted. But knowing other people are isolated, single people, like I don't know how you walk that out, Lynn, but also seeing it through the eyes of my kids. The fact that they were going to school for the first day of school, for instance, and the following year with masks on. And that was their new way of life. And, I was talking to my oldest and how she says it was really hard that her parents were trying to operate a little bit within some responsibility with what the government was asking us to do. And she would see her friends hanging out and chilling with each other, and she felt left out and everything. But do y'all have any like emotions that come up when you think of the pandemic?
I don't know that I have emotions that come up, but the memory of it.
Word,
the memory of it is, it was a hard time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I lived alone. So it was like for that period of time. And I mean, I started hanging out with people into it, but like in that period of time where nobody knew what this was and people were like not around each other at all. It's like, I'm just by myself in my house. Nobody wants to, even I think that year after, in 2021, my parents were very nervous. And so my mom didn't want to, we didn't do Mother's Day, which is like the weirdest. Like, I'm like, in my entire life, I've always been with her on Mother's Day. And so we like Zoom called on Mother's Day, which was like so weird to me. It was just things that I'm not a physical touch person. I would never say that is like my love language or anything like that. But I didn't realize like not seeing people, not hugging, always around my friends and their kids. I didn't realize like, oh, I actually miss. And then when we came back, it was this weird thing of like, some people want to hug you, some people don't. You don't initiate anything because you don't know if you're on this side of the spectrum or that side of the spectrum. It was just weird.
Mm-hmm. It's so crazy to think of the impossible position that our churches were in, or a church like Seacoast, who they're not going to be really hard on one side or the other. And I'll just say Josh Surratt specifically as the leader, it was impossible for everybody to be happy, because if you wanted to give it a little more time, that was an affront to the Lord, because you're not having enough faith by just the saints gathering. They need to gather regardless. Are you afraid of sickness? But if you at any point in time gathered, some people are going to say you're gathering too soon, you're irresponsible, and God would never want you to be irresponsible and put people's lives at stake. I mean, it was just impossible.
And I find comfort in ignoring idiots on both sides. I just think I don't, kind of my thing during 2020, and I still feel this way, is it was, there was so much that no one understood or knew anything about, and everyone was just trying to do the best they could. And obviously, you're not going to get it all right, and you're going to make some big mistakes and small mistakes, and kind of the mistakes were different around the country in, different ways. But, I think one of the things about Seacoast is, people are like, oh, my church never stopped meeting. It's like, oh yeah, your church is 30 people. It's like, you can do that. It's not really a thing. Like no one cares if you keep meeting.
Because you could socially distance in your room.
Well, right, and it's like no one cares because it's just such a low impact. But when you have a church the size of Seacoast, not just Seacoast being Seacoast, but when you have a church the size of Seacoast, it's not the same. And what sort of responsibility do you have as an organization, the size that you are, the reach that you have? It is a different question. And I just, I really don't, I don't really look back and think, oh, if only things could have been different. I don't really feel that way, because I don't really feel that way about anything. Because life's life, and it's kind of useless to say like, oh, things would be better if they were a different way. You have no idea. Mm-hmm. Things could be worse if they had been a different way. I think more, what I think about is just the way that I really think COVID broke a lot of people's brains in ways that I still think, like I think society in general, like it just cracked something that is still not quite right. But also it's weird things. Like one of the things I know Laura and I kind of noticed is, so Jack, my oldest, was in kindergarten when COVID started. And one of the weird things is that we've noticed is no one, as he was all through elementary school, no one in his grade ever had birthday parties. It's just the weirdest thing. Mm-hmm. My younger son, he goes to birthday parties all the time. He has birthday parties. And we did stuff for Jack and invited friends, but
oh, you're saying they still don't have birthday parties?
Yeah, which all through elementary school, it's just didn't do a lot of parties.
Interesting.
And I just thought that was really, some of the things I feel like the, kids who really bore the brunt of COVID just had to internalize. And the effects of that, I don't think we have any idea what those are. Yeah. I think those are going to be, 5, 10, 20 years in the future as we see those start working themselves out.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So listen to this. We had a patron-only episode recording last week, and we did it virtually. So Lynn and I are the first two people on there. She goes, "Hey, Joey." Bree McLeod shows up. "Bree, this is Lynn."
Yeah.
"Bree."
Right.
And I was just like, whoa, wait a second.
Sure. No, this is all making sense.
Yeah. So anyway, I had a fun time giving her a hard time. Obviously, didn't hurt my feelings at all. But we did talk about what made that difference. And for Lynn, it was, well, this is my homegirl. We spend a lot of time outside of the podcast. Like, her and I are friends, but the vast majority of the time we spend is here in this studio. They have a friendship outside of the podcast. But I thought to myself, I don't think I'm that much different with my close friends as I am with people I'm not super close to. So I thought about two people that folks in, our podcast world would know, and that's you and Roy. I think of y'all as homies. So good friends of mine. I think the only difference in me, somebody that I would text at 10 o'clock. I'm not going to text Lynne at 10 o'clock typically. Text you at 10.
I wish you wouldn't text me at 10, but nonetheless.
But, and Roy and I will talk on the phone every now and then outside of the podcast. You guys are friends outside the podcast world. And I think the only difference is with Roy, without sounding too weird, our hugs would probably be a little more heartfelt than just a normal hug with anyone. But for both of you, the only difference, but then I would put Lynne in this category, then I'm going to say what you two guys are. I would just probably stop if I could and talk a little bit more. Sure. Whereas just someone in the general public that I know, it's like, hey, how you doing? Now, if they want to stop and talk, then fine, I'll stop and talk. But as an introvert, I'll usually let that slide on by if they don't want to talk. Whereas I'm going to at least ask you, hey, how's it been going? What's going on? Sort of thing. But as far as the actual physical demonstration of seeing someone that I'm close to versus somebody that I'm not, I don't think I look any differently.
Wow.
Do you think you do?
Yeah. Used to joke in creative about that I have a hierarchy of relationships.
You do. Yeah.
Which is both true or not. Like I compartmentalize everything. It's just a part of who I am. And so there is a part of me that does compartmentalize like where everyone is in relation to me. And I don't mean like in a self-centered way. I just mean like every single person in my life has a place that is defined to me. And that doesn't imply necessarily anything about that person as a person. It's just, so for me, it's like
categorical.
So okay. So if someone said, oh, are you and so friends? The normal person answer would be yes. My answer that I don't vocalize would be something like, well, no, not really. We work together and I like them, but no, we're not friends. But of course that would like crush them.
What's friendship to you?
So friendship to me is something very specific, which is like, if we're friends, then that is that is an actual, like, I hate to use the word commitment, but to me it's like, if you're my friend, that to me implies that I am like committed to you in some way. Like that's an important relationship. Whereas I have tons of acquaintances and there are tons of people I like that I interact with every day that I wouldn't consider friends.
I promise you it will not hurt my feelings. Or would you see me as two guys that are fond of each other? We like each other and not friends? We
are friendly. So part of my deal is, do we spend enough time together outside of normal interactions to like distinguish from anyone else I work with? Mm-hmm. And that is a thing with me. So like part of the deal is if we don't spend any time together outside of a work context, and like texting can be part of that, then no. And again, that's just the way I see the world, and I realize it's very, very strange.
So we text back and forth. Are we friends because of that?
We are.
Do you have your text chat with Jack open at this very moment?
No, I don't. I have my notes open.
Let me tell you something. So
you don't want to open that one.
You don't. So one of the things, and this is a guy thing, right? Like guys will say the worst things in the world to each other.
Oh, for sure.
And that's how you know that we care.
Right.
One time Joey sent me something that was just enormously inappropriate in general. Within a guy-to-guy context, like it was very funny and fine and whatever. But it was, like in some stuff I'll say to you is to anyone else would be enormously hurtful and cruel. But, I love you, Joey. And that's why I say those things.
And I have sent a horrible text to your dad before, not knowing it was him.
Well, and this is why, so one day Joey texts me something and it's enormously inappropriate. And I had a moment of inspiration and I just texted back, I think you meant this for my son.
I really did appreciate this though. Like I am cuckoo enough to where for a while. So there was one time, because I'm just a goofball, I took a bunch of pictures of myself making different emotional expressions. So instead of sending the cartoon version back to people where people, have like a frowny face or a thumbs up, like I have actual ones. And so not a lot of people, I don't go around telling people, hey, I have these pictures, so you may get one. But Jack, you sent me something, and I sent you my version of Laugh Out Loud, but it was actually me, and you literally texted back, I just spit my water out because you weren't expecting it. Oh goodness. All right, so we're a little deeper than liking each other because we text.
Yeah, well, Seacoast is weird. Seacoast actually...
You don't use friendship as loosely as other people do.
No, that's how I feel about it.
Because I would say, oh, Jack's a friend. Lynne's a friend.
Right, and that's why I don't, if someone says, oh, are you guys friends? I'd say, oh, sure. Because it's basically I'm using that word the way that I know you use it, which is fine. It's just, to me, and it's really more, I'm particular about words and how I use words and what they mean. And so, anyway, but Seacoast is interesting because, like the people I work with at Seacoast, they're also much more than coworkers. And so, anyway, I don't know. Honestly, the categories aren't really super hard to find. I just like to say they are because it really bothers people when I say that.
Yeah.
Like, how can you go through life that way? It's like, oh, I'm having a great time right now.
Yeah, I do think very categorically of people. It's always been my tendency. Lynne, my guess would be that you would be like you don't say things that you don't mean, and you seem to be someone very conscious of the words that you use. You don't courtesy laugh, et cetera, et cetera. I would think you're probably similar to that.
Probably close, but I do use friend in a broader sense.
Yeah.
Even though I don't, because sometimes I don't know the word to use because there isn't a word for someone that you like. And so a lot of times I'll be like, oh, my friend so-and-so. And because coworker feels cold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
But friend doesn't, we don't spend any time, I have no idea about your life except what you tell me while we're at work. But if I left Seacoast, would we still talk?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, right.
So I use it a lot. But yeah, I probably feel similar.
All right, so let me put you in a scenario. This will be very interesting for me. You're talking to someone, they graduated from Winthrop, and they're just like, I had this friend, oh my gosh, it's been such a long time, Joey Svensson, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, oh my gosh, would you say, oh, I podcast with him, he's a friend of mine? Or would you say, oh yeah, I work with him? Or
I would probably say I podcast with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just say, oh yeah, I know him. We podcast together.
So we're not friends.
I feel like you do these episodes just to find out things that you're wondering about.
That's what the fun of podcasting.
Fun for who?
You're like,
no, I just think I don't know. Now I know what you're saying, and I don't. I think through what would be fun to talk about. We all just laughed.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Also awkwardly, a little bit.
And listeners just enjoyed that.
They did probably.
There you go. All right, so we'll close with this. This is something that I have, I tell people, I'm constantly taking notes of things that could possibly be good podcast conversation. This one's been sitting here for a long time, to the point where I saw this quote, and I have no context other than the quote itself, but I paired it with a quote from Rick Warren, and they're both closely related. So I want to hear y'all's thoughts on this subject matter, and then I've got one very specific thought that could possibly get me in trouble. But the quote was, and I don't know who said it, but I want to say it was just somebody confessing something on Facebook or something. They say, how do you differentiate compassion and acceptance? If I show compassion for another, it appears if I accept their sin. I struggle with this in my personal life. All right, so that's one quote. Then Rick Warren's quote, our culture has accepted two huge lies. The first is that if you disagree with someone's lifestyle, you must fear or hate them. The second is that to love someone, it means you must agree with everything they believe or do. Both are nonsense. We don't have to compromise our convictions to be compassionate people. Do y'all want me to start with my thought, or do y'all have some stuff right away?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. So what could possibly get me in trouble is, at least in my circles, people that I see on social media, friends I have, because I have friends that are ultra conservative, I have friends that are ultra liberal. It seems like the first thing that Rick Warren says, if you disagree with someone's lifestyle, you must fear or hate them. That's one lie. I feel like that is a struggle for some of my ultra-conservative brothers and sisters. Now, I think hate is a strong word. The ultra-conservative people that I'm close friends with, I don't think hate is the problem, but there is definitely a feel of those guys, they're not like me attitude rather than team humanity. And it's almost like they're also the problem. They're bringing a lot of corruption to society. Like, I feel distinct from them. Whereas the second lie that Rick Warren says, to love someone, it means you must agree with everything they believe or do, seems to be more common sentiments to my more liberal thinking brothers and sisters. It's like, if you don't agree with a person's lifestyle, you can't love them. Are you kidding me? That's not love. Love is accepting someone, which means this is what acceptance looks like, where you can accept a person and love, like, I love you, like, I unconditionally love you. There are things that I do personally that I don't agree with. That doesn't mean I don't love myself. I can disagree with something that you are for, and it doesn't mean that I don't love you. But first of all, does that resonate as far as what it seems like conservatives would struggle with versus more liberally minded thinking? Or do y'all not really see a correlation there?
Well, no, I think that's fair. I just think both of those can apply equally to either side.
Yeah.
I guess is what I would say.
Yeah.
Like, I do think probably the second one, you have to affirm my lifestyle or else you don't love me. I do think that tends to be more of a progressive hang up. But the first one, kind of hey, what was the first lie?
Yeah, the first one is, if you disagree with someone's lifestyle, you must fear or hate them. The second one is that to love someone, it means you must agree with everything they believe or do.
See, I think the first one is equally applied to both sides.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of, the left and right now is, if you're on that other side, you must be evil or stupid.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be on the other
so
side.
Unfortunate.
You can't see that. It's not possible to see the world that way unless you are also evil.
And the coddling of the American mind, that's one of the three lies that Jonathan Haidt, I think his name is, says that Gen Z has been brought up with, is people who disagree with you, they're bad.
Yeah, right. So I think that's much more equal opportunity. I think both sides do that. I think you have to affirm is much more of a progressive one, because I think the right tends to be more, look, like, I don't care. Whatever you want to do, I don't especially care.
The right?
I could agree. Yeah, well, it's more of you can call it libertarian leaning if you want. It's look, you do what you want to do. I don't especially care and you don't need to care whether I agree with it or not. I think and this can be different depending on the time, but I think right now in our cultural moment, I think the left is more of it has more of a righteousness to it, of hey, we're trying to make the world better, and if you don't agree with that, you must be stupid and bad. And I think that's where you have to affirm these things. It's not merely you have to condemn certain things, is that you must also affirm X, Y, and Z. And I think the demand to assent to certain principles is more predominant on the left right now than on the right, though it's on the right too. And, I think if you maybe want to go back to the maybe 80s or 90s, I think that was more of a feature of the right than the left, which is, hey, listen, you have to agree to some of these obviously right things. And if you don't, that's a big problem. I think one thing you could say is there are a lot of people on the left who have kind of become the thing that they hated in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll go on the record to say that I think, and not skeptical, what's the word that I always say? I'm happy that you're a little more than me. What's the word? Cynical. I brought this up with Lynne one time, and it was right on. Like, I talked about how commercials are more inclusive with people who have not the perfect model body, aren't your typical model female, or I just saw an Apple commercial where it's one disabled person after another. I probably said that politically incorrect to some people, but Lynne said, I don't necessarily trust that Apple is doing that because that's their values as much as they know that that's what people want to see.
Their market.
But I will say, as a whole, I think what the younger generation is bringing in is bringing to the surface that, hey, we have been a certain way. We have had certain attitudes towards certain people that hasn't been healthy. So I want to say that before I say what I'm about to say, and that is the people that you just described being on the ultra left, they don't realize they just created a fundamentalist religion.
Yeah, right.
It's fundamentalist. I mean, it is dogmatic, and it is very much so what you said the far right used to be.
Well, so one of the things I think I've joked that it's like what you've seen for the last 15 years is like the West trying to like speed run the first 5,000 years of human religious yearning. Like cancel culture is just scapegoating and sacrifice. That's all it is. Is we have to find someone to kill so that we can satisfy whatever God is angry right now. They don't think about it that way, but that's exactly what it is. Is we're all agitated. We have to kill something. It's like I'm getting to like Rene Girard, but like just this. Anyway, so part of the thing is like it is a religious yearning, and when you I think one of the biggest problems, not just with the left, but with American and Western culture in general, is they want to have a society based on Christian virtues divorced from Christianity, and they don't realize that they're doing it. It's like Tom Holland in his book Dominion. It's just like it's so good, and it's basically outlines like the West is built on a foundation of like a Christian worldview. It just is. And it's kind of like the fish don't realize they're swimming in water, right? It's like you're around it, so you just don't realize it. But like so when you want to say things like, oh, we have to protect victims, it's like, says who? It says what culture in all of human history before Christianity? None of them. So we need to protect victims. We need to empower victims. We need to give victims a voice. Okay, only Christianity says that. What's the rationale for doing that without Christianity? Mm-hmm. You don't have it anymore. And so I think what you want is a lot of Christian values without the actual Christian underpinnings, and it doesn't work. And it's just chaos. And it's like you're talking about the commercials. Like I hate that stuff. I don't want to be cynical, but that really does bring it out of me. Because, or like, look, as soon as Donald Trump comes back into office, all of these corporations stop doing all of the stuff that they said was so important just a year ago. They don't care about you. They don't care about your cause, whatever it is. They don't, and they never did. And for me, it's just like it's all just signaling. Like I remember I was in. No, I want to share that story. I think it'd be fine, but I don't know.
Well, let me just say this: even if the people who are in control of what we see, I personally think it's altogether a good thing when I'm watching the national championship football game, for instance, and the sports commentator is a woman that most people would not be like, wow, she's a knockout. Like it has been in the past. It's like you don't give a woman a microphone unless she's like the prettiest of the prettiest. Whereas now it's not like that anymore. I would even go so far as to say churches were like that for a while. You didn't see women on stage leading worship unless they were attractive. I just think as a whole, that's a good thing.
Here's my deal. It is not a good thing unless it has that actual underpinning of real coherent virtue. Otherwise, you're just doing things because you think they're good, but with no actual end game or reason for doing it.
So you don't think there's a part of humanity that believes that?
If it's good, then shouldn't you find the ugliest people possible to platform? like, it can't just be a virtue in and of itself. Like, what are you trying to achieve and why? So, like, okay, so there's a show on Apple TV called Silo. A lot of people really like it.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do it. And I couldn't do it when I realized like it's like this post-apocalyptic humanity surviving in this underground bunker. And it just like drove me crazy when I was like, okay, so you were a perfect sociological slice of humanity. Everyone has equal representation, like race, age, gender, like there are people with disabilities and everyone's going to get equal airtime. And it's like, I can't do that. Not because I don't think it's, not because I think it's bad, but just because it's like, so you're going to grab, like everyone runs down to the bunkers to save themselves and it just magically becomes this perfectly representative slice. It takes me out of it. I can't do it because you're trying to do something besides tell this story. You're trying to tell an additional story, which is this value that you have, and I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
It bugs me, and it's not like, oh, because everything has to be like culturally accurate to that time. Like people made a big deal when Idris Elba played a god in Thor. It's like, look, I don't care about that. All of Thor's gods don't need to be white because it's Norse. I don't care about that. But it's like when you're like hey, we're going to make sure that everything you see is correct. But it's just correct according to the cultural moment, which is meaningless because they don't care.
Well, Lynn, let's take females, for instance, where body image stuff is way more problematic. It's not something that guys don't deal with, but it's way more problematic for females. And I think most people would say because culture always shows and highlights this is the ideal look, this is the ideal figure, this is ideal, where it seems like for better or regardless of the motivation, that's not what's being fed to our adolescent girls anymore. And I think that's a healthy thing. Even how my daughters talk in general, they recognize the BS of an ideal body type. That used to not be BS amongst girls. It's just the truth, and I don't have it.
Yeah, this is a nuanced conversation because I think it goes back to the root of it. So I do like that you see a representative of women and beauty looks different. But I was even having a conversation with a friend and her niece, who's like 8 or 9, asked for skincare products for Christmas. And she was like, you don't need skincare products. You're 9. And she caught her like looking in the mirror at herself, like thinking like she had a wrinkle. And that is what she sees on TV. Yeah. And so, okay, you see people with different body shapes, but there is still a message being told to our girls, you know? So like whatever the industry is doing, I don't think that the motive is good. And so it's like, but they're being tossed and turned by like culture. So what we're teaching this generation is whatever the masses want is what the masses get, or whatever the loudest person or the most rebellious person, or like whatever wave is sweeping hysteria is sweeping society. That's what you get. And so we're raising a generation to behave like that to get what they want. And so I think it's just deeper than that. I do think it's good that we're seeing different body types, but I still don't want kids watching commercials because they're still selling you something that is not wholesome and true beauty. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's nothing you will see on TV, movies, streaming, whatever, that is not teaching you something.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it says, "Oh no, it's just innocent. It is what it is." It's like it's never just what it is, because everything. As soon as we're talking, when we would do this series, like the At the Movies series, sometimes people say like, "Oh, I hate when you do that series," blah blah blah. And my thing is like, look, that's not my favorite series either. It's really not. However, people pay billions and billions of dollars to see these movies, which means they're stories that they want to see. Shouldn't we try to understand the stories our culture wants to see and is paying to see? Like, you don't think that's a window into what our culture wants? And, I just think like But it's not just what our culture wants. One of the things you also see is what are the things that are put in front of people that they don't want. Well, then you have this is what people think we're supposed to want. And that I think is a lot harder. And I think that's where people kind of get reactionary on any side when they feel like you're showing me this because you're telling me this is what I have to think about this, or this is what I have to believe. And I'm not going to do that. And that's where you get like a lot of reactions and backlashes they can be positive and they can be really bad. But I just think there's no, people, who make shows and put people on TV, they're not using any discernment in a moral sense. Their only discernment is what will be popular or make money. They're not and this part of my thing is like it's good to see different body types on screen. That it is. No one putting those people on screen is doing that to be virtuous. None of them. Not a single one of them. And so you can't trust that as a good thing in and of itself. So if it's good, it's accidentally good.
So you don't think there's anybody who is a part of NBC, for instance, maybe the person making the decisions, but you don't think there's anyone that thinks deeply in their heart, wow, I'm so glad we are turning away from this ideal attraction that everybody should aspire to, and that's the only sort of people that we put on screen. You don't think there's anyone that's just like that deeply, I have that value, and I'm so happy that we're turning a corner. Like, I almost think like a whole organization, you don't think there's one person that's like, I love that.
So there are people who think that way, but it's because there are people who think that way. A lot of them think that way because they're trying to replace that with their own narrative. And I don't trust them either. Because that's not just a virtuous thing. Like, I don't think it would be good necessarily for NBC to go, you know what? We're only doing Christian programming from now on. If they did that, it would be because they think it would be profitable and be good. And maybe that would reflect something that I like personally. But I just think we put way too much emphasis on, so we're talking like influencers and stuff. It used to be that the goal was to be famous because of what you did or achieved. Now the goal is just to be famous. The goal is to be famous. It doesn't matter what you do. Fame is the only goal, which is why influencers do insane, ridiculous, stupid pranks that tick people off and are just chaos because there is no narrative other than being famous. That is the whole goal. It's not achievement. It's not respect. It's just eyeballs. And I think that's not just like Gen Z. I just think that is at root of a lot of our culture in general now. And so it's like anytime someone puts anything in front of me, I'm just like, why are you putting this in front of me? Because I don't trust your reasons. And I really don't trust that they're good. I trust that they're self-interested. And that's not necessarily a bad thing in and of itself, but it doesn't make what you're doing virtuous. And it makes me really suspect when I see everyone doing the same thing. We're all going to start showing this to people now. It might be a good correction, but my view is it's very rarely done for virtuous reasons.
Yeah. So with what you're saying, and we're friends, so I can just say this.
Well,
as
yeah, that's true. That's true. According to me, we're friends.
For purposes of this particular episode, I acknowledge Joey Svensson as friend.
I feel like you have a healthy cynicism, skepticism that I need more of, but I feel like it may be too far. I think what we're talking about is more or has similarities to, so I was on another podcast for many years and I brought up the fact that there was a homeless person that asked for food, and I said, okay, I will, they were asking for money. I said, what do you need it for? Food. I said, well, let's go into the grocery store. I'll buy you some food. And my co-hosts who were extremely cynical about everything, and I learned some stuff from them, but they were just like, oh, well, I hope you feel better about yourself. And basically said that was all about me. It made me feel not guilty. It made me feel good about myself. And I 100% disagree that that's what it was all about. I believe it was partially about that because none of us have pure motives with our actions. I believe it was partly, ooh, I feel good about myself. It was partly, ooh, I didn't turn this person away. But it was also partly, I want to be a good citizen. And if I call myself a Christ follower and someone says I'm hungry, I'm doing I'm not even doing the elementary parts of our faith. That's a very complicated deal. Yes, there were some impure motives, but it was not this whole egotistic, all about me thing either. And I think maybe in some cases it would be, and maybe it was something looks really good that I'm doing and it was completely about me. That was not one of them. I just feel we're more in that territory. We've got two things going on. We've got a very good thing that we're not so pigeonholed in and this was way more of an umbrella issue than just attractiveness, but we'll say, right. It's a good thing that we don't have attraction pigeonholed like we used to. It's a bad thing that corporations are using that just to make more money because they don't care. I actually feel like there's a cultural value shift where the three of us would say, yeah, beauty is not this specific thing. The more people who know that, the better off we are as humans.
So to me, it's not a good, bad thing. It's just, okay, so the thing you're talking about, like your individual motives for giving, right, complicated. It doesn't scale that way at an organizational level, right? Like if NBC did hey, we're going to do a give to the poor month, might that be a good thing? Sure. But would it not be totally reasonable to go, it's a bit weird. Why are you doing that? Is this really about this? Or is it about something else too? I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to ask. And so it's like, I guess, be clear, like the, greater representation in whether it's like sports, reporting or whatever. It's like, yeah, that's great. I've got no problem with that. I think what I'm trying to say is more like I am a bit of a reactionary in this thing is obviously good. I tend to be much more of like is it? I don't know. Why? Why are they doing that? Why do they feel the need to do that? Why might they be making that change? So let me give you an example of something that like a representation thing that I would consider to be welcome change. And I don't watch a ton of TV or movies really. But so maybe this isn't a thing anymore, but I would certainly welcome, there to be more dads in movies and TVs who aren't idiots, right? Who aren't bumbling idiots who are saved every day by their wives. It irritates me because men aren't stupid and women aren't perfect.
Yeah. Everybody's becoming Homer Simpsons.
Right. But it just irritates me. And I find that to be an irritating trope. The bumbling idiot husband and father whose only saving grace is he is a smart wife. Who again is like, and she married him. Why exactly? Like, what is that about? Anyway. So if there were more like, hey, we're doing shows about like, competent, courageous men who solve problems and are admirable, I'd be like, oh, that's great. I'm happy about that. But I also wouldn't be like, what a virtuous choice that these stations have made in portraying this. Truly, this represents a cultural shift. It's like, nah, that's where the money is. Might it be better for society that that's where the money is? Maybe, but that's still why they're doing it. They're not doing it because all of a sudden they realize, you know what, I want to honor fathers in our programming. They're doing it because that's what they think will make money. Just like that's the reason they did the bumbling idiot husbands 30 years ago, because that's what people responded to.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't know.
So a perfect example would be this podcast. We didn't have to start a patron deal, but it was motivated by, maybe we could not only use what this podcast is, it's entertainment, and it's also hopefully spiritually enriching to people, but we could also use the airwaves to partner up financially with somebody else who's doing good. let's say you guys don't go to Seacoast Church. You don't even know of Seacoast Church. You listen to an episode and you hear me talking about if you become a patron, all of our money, every dime. We don't even take the credit card fee out of your $10. Every single penny goes to this ministry. Do y'all think, oh, wow, well, I'm glad that podcast thinks that they look good, because that wasn't the motivation. The motivation.
I think for me, it breaks down to the organization, the company, the whoever, whatever entity it is, what is their main goal?
Mm-hmm.
So if I come across a podcast of a nonprofit and they're supporting another nonprofit, I'm not cynical about their motivation. But when we're talking about capitalism and someone who's the bottom line is to make money. The bottom line is to make money. And we have seen through history that certain organizations, certain channels, they will do things that are a little bit sketchy to make money. And so that's why, even the questioning, why are you doing this? It's a good thing, but why are you doing it? And am I a little bit skeptical of the organization or the company? That's what it is. It's not the thing. It is what is driving the thing.
Yeah.
And in a company where, the tide changes, and let's say that 10 years from now, this fictional ideal woman goes back to being what's popular and what people are looking at. You better believe that you're only going to see this imaginary ideal woman on the TV shows, on the commercials, on the things. And so I think that's what it is. I don't think people are skeptical. I think you know the source. And so whatever the source's goal is, you kind of filter that through. Okay, Seacoast Church, they have this podcast. This is the goal of the podcast. This is the goal of the church. And so whatever they do is filtered through that. A network TV, I'm thinking whatever they're doing is for ratings, because ratings get them commercials and commercials get them money,
Mm-hmm.
And so.
All right, here's another example. And I do believe that you guys are more cynical than me, but also probably better at critical thinking. All right, so I just went through a Harris Teeter checkout line this week, and they had a little sign that said that you can donate to St. Jude's Hospital, which I think we all agree is a good cause, helping families who have a child going through cancer. I sometimes, and my therapist is helping me, and she has for a long time. Everybody doesn't think like me. There's some people that can't relate to any way that you think, and there's certain people that you just don't know what it's like to think with their mind. But if I own a place like Harris Teeter that is a huge moneymaker, I'm probably going to think, what is a good, I want to also give back to the community. I want to make money so I can expand and hire more people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's not how my mind is made as an entrepreneur anyway. But if I'm a Christian and I have a successful business, at some point I'm going to think, hey, how can I use this success and give back? So using Joey Svensson's mind and thinking everybody thinks like me, I'm thinking the people at Harris Teeter are like, man, how can we give back to our community? I don't think they put that St. Jude, you can donate so that people like Harris Teeter more. Maybe that's part of it, but bottom line, I'm going to go to Harris Teeter whether they're partnering up with a nonprofit or not, because I like the grocery store. I don't really care whether or not they are supporting a nonprofit. That's not going to make me go back. So when y'all see something like that, do y'all think, oh, Harris Teeter is just doing that for people that are listening outside, this is a grocery store. But do y'all think they're just doing that to beef up more people coming back because it looks good?
No. And the reason, again, is because I know Harris Teeter. And the one that I go to all the time, Harris Teeter specifically, they hire in the special needs community. They have a heart and a desire to help the marginalized.
So y'all are proving my point.
So no, but what I'm saying, what I'm proving my point actually is that I know Harris Teeter, they have a heart for that. And so they have a heart for the community. And so it doesn't shock me. I wouldn't, because there are people who attend our church who work at Harris Teeter. I know how they're treated. And so just like knowing that that is how, like, the heart of the company, or maybe specifically the Harris Teeters in the Charleston area that we know of. So knowing that that is their heart, I wouldn't see that sign and think, oh, they're just doing something to get people to like them and to come to their grocery store.
So is it impossible for a company and I'm not arguing for Apple in any way, shape, or form. Is it possible for a company to be as big as Apple and to have that same mentality for the community? I would say, yeah, it's possible.
It's possible.
I would say that CEO of Hobby Lobby is an example.
Yes, but I would also, part of that is like seeing it in action. You know, like when I'll let Jack go, but I think it's possible. But
are you hearing my heart at least?
Yes, but that's the whole problem. Is that you think that people have that same kind of heart. You're like, well, I would do this. Like, yeah, you're a Christian. So, like,
I don't think Christians are the only ones who think about other people, but point taken.
I would be curious how much charity and giving happened in the world pre-Christianity. One of the complaints in the 3rd and 4th century, I think it was Emperor Julian. He was really irritated because the Christians took better care of the poor than Rome did. He said they don't just take care of their poor, they take care of our poor too. And the idea that like giving and taking care of those in need is something that humans do is nuts. It's not true. It's very much cultural. And it happens in the West because the West has a Christian foundation. It's like Chinese companies give to charities. They give to government-affiliated charities. Individuals don't give much at all. Whereas in the West, individual giving is much more important. Do I think that large corporations would partner with local nonprofits if it wasn't a cultural imperative? Some would, but it certainly wouldn't be the same scale.
When you say cultural imperative, you mean what the masses want,
those
and
who
what they see as good?
Those who have are expected to give of what they have to those who don't have. That is a powerful cultural expectation. That's why anytime anyone runs for president, they always pull their donations. How much do they give to charity? Every time. Because that's something that we care very much about. The idea that people can do good things because it's expected of them, but not for any reason that means anything to them. Like you're talking about the podcast, like, well, yeah, of course that wouldn't bother anyone because it's, like Lynne said, it's directly in line with who we are as an organization. There's nothing really directly in line with a large corporation giving to like St. Jude's, other than we want to do something that is perceived as being a good thing. Like, I don't think executives at large companies feel warm and fuzzy because of that, even if they think it's important. And in the same way, it's like, again, here's what I want companies who make movies and entertainment to do. I want them to care about making things that are fun and enjoyable to watch. And anytime I realize, oh, you're also trying to teach me something, I can't do it, whatever it is. This is why Christian movies are so often terrible, because they're more about teaching people, hey, by the way, Christianity is really good, instead of the story. That's why a movie or show stinks when the value is the story.
But Lord of the Rings, you're a big fan, right?
You think Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings to expound his values?
You don't think there is any value in those, or it's just
that is such a totally different thing.
Okay.
That's like, so in the morning when I give my son a glass of orange juice with his breakfast, I'm giving him a good thing. I don't sit down and say, no, son, let me tell you about vitamin C today. If I did that, do you think he would continue to enjoy his orange juice in the same way? No, he'd get tired of it. That's why, like, anytime, you're talking to someone And you're said like, hey, and anytime you start going like, and by the way, this is, it's because we're Christians. Like, people can roll their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because they hate Christian values? No, because no one likes feeling like they're being preached to. Because you're being preached to because you're not as good as you should be. That's the only reason to preach to anybody. And so when entertainment preaches to me, it drives me crazy. Christian stuff too. I hate that. Right? Because it's not about the story. It's the story is you're not as good a person as you could be. But by the way, look at us. Look how good we are.
Yeah.
That's what I hate. And anytime I feel like I detect that, it is just an immediate cynicism dial goes all the way up.
So I've got thick skin and you guys are my friends.
That did not sound like your skin was thick.
When you're when you think of Joey Svensson, do you think, oh, he's gullible?
I don't think
Innocent
gullible.
and gullible.
I don't think gullible, but I do think that you and this
I
is
feel like
great.
I think good.
and this is why we need different people in our lives, because I do scale to the side of being suspicious. So I have to temper myself. Am I discerning or am I suspicious? Whereas you just see the best in people, and I question people's motives probably more than you do. So I wouldn't say you're gullible, but I do think that you see you approach people with probably a kinder, more childlike acceptance.
I do believe that I have a natural ability to see good in people, but I for sure need to rub shoulders with people like you guys, for sure. And I've also learned, now that I'm almost 49 years old, from experience, people can be really horrible and really horrible to you. Yeah. And I've experienced that from people. People have been very horrible to me, as I'm sure I've been to other people as well. But over life, it's almost impossible to have a super optimistic perception of all people, because you see and experience it yourself that it's not the case.
So I think I'm actually probably a little bit in between both of you. It's one of the things I didn't realize this until just a couple of years ago. I didn't realize this until a couple of years ago, but so I do have a significant part of me that wants to believe the best about people. Laura feels like it can be a liability sometimes because she feels like I kind of let myself get walked all over. But I didn't realize I got that from my mom's mom. She was that way. However, what that is paired with is if I feel that you have not disappointed me, but if I become convinced of the opposite, I would be willing to take you out back and put you down myself. It's done, it's over. Swift, there's a description, an old description of I don't know, warriors or whatever, quick to anger and quick to laugh. I feel like that is very much me. I'm very quick to be very angry, and I'm very quick to laugh. But I do want to believe the best about people. And it's just, it's not that I think I've become more cynical. It's just, I think I've just learned to be hesitant at both impulses. I'm hesitant to be cynical because there are a lot of times where someone will say oh, well, I saw so-and-so on camera and that made me feel this way and here's why. And everybody's, oh yeah, that's good. I'm glad they felt that way. I wouldn't try to take that away from them, take away what they felt, even if that doesn't dampen my suspicion at all. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of holding those in both. But Lynn's description of you, I think, is good. And the way I would put it is I think you're a pure-hearted person. And pure-hearted people, the danger is that it can be very easy. It can be easier for them to be deceived. And so you brought up Tolkien, so this is really your fault. But there's so he wrote Lord of the Rings, and then he also wrote something called the Silmarillion. And the Silmarillion, it's not one book that he wrote; it's a collection of his stories. It was published as a book, and it's kind of like the history of Middle-earth from creation to the beginning of The Hobbit, basically, and again, a collection of stories. And everyone talks about Sauron from Lord of the Rings, but Sauron was just a lieutenant of the Satan figure in the Silmarillion named Morgoth. This is a really interesting thing. So the god of Tolkien's Middle Earth, he creates the world, and then he creates basically these lesser gods, which are like angels or whatever, but they're really more like God, we would think of as gods, and they help him do all this stuff. And so Morgoth is one of them, and he turns evil. And so there's this really interesting part where like this big battle happens at one point, and the angels or gods who have stayed good capture Morgoth. And there's this really interesting thing where like they kind of keep him captive, he's with them, but after a while, like he pretends to repent. And Tolkien's observation is like, because they had no real concept of evil themselves, like it was easier for them to be taken in because they couldn't really conceive of the idea of repenting and not meaning it. Repenting to deceive.
Yeah.
And I think like there is a thing with pure-hearted people. Like I think Joshua in video, he's this guy who I think is really, he's a pure-hearted guy. And I think the thing with pure-hearted people is like, I want to be more like them. But I think one of the things is, I do think that they can sometimes, find themselves just, and it's not Christian, like just more easily deceived because it's harder for them to imagine the depth of darkness that can just be in other people's hearts, or the readiness to give into like a little bit of darkness. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway.
So you would say, and I'm not this Star Wars nerd, but Return of the Jedi, for instance, and how it ends, good conquered evil, love wins. That's less about, it's John Lucas, right? Who did the Star Wars movie?
George Lucas.
George Lucas?
John Lucas.
See, I'm not a nerd. I'm not a nerd. I just grew up with the toys. But it wasn't about him and, that's my value is I want people to see good conquering evil. For him, it was, this will sell. Like, that's generally how you think?
Well, no.
Because I think good conquering evil is a great thing to portray in any way, shape, or form.
I think that's a great example because Kathleen Kennedy, who ran Lucasfilm for a long time until just yesterday or something, she is much more conscious of what will be popular and what will sell, which is why it ran into just becoming a nightmare. But again, George Lucas is one man who has a story to tell. And so, no, I don't think that about him. Because again, he's one man trying to tell a story. And this is why Star Wars is still really culturally resonant, is because he told a actual story. And he included things in there that he believed and that represented things that he believed. What I'm talking about is cultural efforts corporate efforts to make cultural signals that they believe will be received well.
Yeah.
Which is all those are.
Yeah. That makes sense. We don't have to go into this, but it connects to our discussion on, or just my observation, whether it was right or wrong, and how ultra conservative people think versus ultra liberal. I listened to a podcast episode with Lecrae and Matt Chandler years ago, but one thing that stood out, and I'm not sure if I agree with it, but I'm like, wow, that is fascinating, very interesting. And I think I forgot who made the point, but basically, more liberally minded Christians, they think all about God's kingdom, but they forget there's a king. More conservative minded Christians, they think all about the king, and they forget that there's a kingdom, and how they deal with politics and society and culture. I just thought that was a really thought-provoking.
Yeah, well, that tracks, and I think probably along with that, which is a slightly different thing, is I think maybe it was Jonathan Haidt in the same book that you were talking about.
Howling of the American Mind?
No, it was a different book. But I think. Anyway, but there's also a...
That's a horrible last name to have. It's not spelled the same.
Right. Yeah, Haidt.
Right.
But there's also like a really well-known, I don't know, not phenomena, but like grouping, which is conservatives tend to prioritize and care about and take care of and place a premium on the people, like friends, family, the people in their immediate vicinity over kind of the broader world. Mm-hmm. Whereas progressives tend to place a higher value on caring for humanity at the expense of the people in their immediate vicinity. And of course, both think the other is evil for that point of view, or negligent.
Whereas if either side fully succeeded in what they wanted, it would be a good world.
Well, no. They both need to bring each other, like they both need to act as correctives on each other. Like this is the whole thing. Progressives need conservatives and conservatives need progressives.
I'm just saying if they did it perfectly, then people that are thinking of the whole world, if they met the needs of the whole world, that'd be a great thing.
But this is what I'm saying.
And if all individuals took care of individuals in their sphere, that'd be a great thing. That would be both say everybody.
No, because what you need is the conservatives to realize, oh, you know what? There's more than just the people in my immediate life that I'm responsible for. So both of those things are trying to answer, who is my neighbor? And am I my brother's keeper? Like, I think those are the core questions in the entire Bible. Gotcha. Am I my brother's keeper, and who is my neighbor? Both of those are attempts to answer that question, and they're both incomplete. Mm-hmm. Because you cannot care, like there's oh gosh, I can't remember who said it, but like, maybe it was Tolstoy, said everyone thinks that's going to be wrong, and I would hate it. Everyone thinks of changing the world, no one thinks of changing themselves. And you cannot take care of humanity if you don't care for your family. You can't. And taking care of your family at the expense of the other is similarly unacceptable within a Christian framework. And so it's like, no, actually, you cannot take. And this is what I say. Like, my objection is not to my objection is the idea that, like, oh, if the left just took care of the world perfectly and the right just took care of families perfectly, that'd be great. It's like, no, that would actually be a disaster. They both need to learn how to do the thing that they're not naturally inclined to do. Right? Yeah. Like the left has to, like progressives, you got to stop cutting off family members because they voted for Trump. Stop doing that. And the right, it's like, look, you got to actually care about the people that you're cheering getting taken away by ICE. Like, you both need to do these things to some extent. You both need to do it. Yeah. And it doesn't even matter who's right and who's wrong. Right? You got to learn to take care of your family, and you got to learn to take care of who you would consider the other to be. Yeah. And until you can do both of those things, you're not going to be able to do either of them in the way that you're supposed to. Yeah,
that's good stuff, man. Well, we'll wrap it here. Did y'all know? Because my kids are older than yours. There is a.
Why'd you say it like it's some sort of achievement? That's just how time works.
Oh no, it's not an achievement. It's because they're more connected.
My kids are older than yours.
I'm assuming you guys haven't heard about this. The age of my children, they're very familiar, and they've showed me the clips. So there was a very successful YouTube. I hate the word influencer because I'm like,
that's what it is.
Yeah. So y'all know what I'm talking about. But basically, he built this massive following by going into public places and basically causing havoc. So screaming at in Lowe's, for instance, and the manager's called, and he's like, I don't know who that was. And then he has a friend that's doing it over there. He's like, I can't believe this is happening. And they're getting it all on film, and it's very entertaining to watch. He has done this for so long. He walked into a Target with tons of his friends dressed like Target employees and caused havoc in a Target store. Anyway, he is, I don't know, if he'll get out on parole, but he's doing about 10 years. And my kids are like, I cannot believe how long he has to be in jail for this. I disagree with what he did. I was like, kids, he did this multiple times in multiple business establishments, causing chaos. Cops were called in certain situations, and they would always compare it to, but somebody who does such and such only got, and I'm like, well, yeah, I think that person should probably have spent more time in jail as well. But I'm always like, 10 years for causing as much chaos as he's caused. But do y'all even know about this at all? I mean,
I need a name. I know there was one guy that got arrested in like South Korea or whatever. Every time I'm like, you can't be body slammed hard enough or soon enough. There's actually there's a clip. It's probably a year or two old of like one of these kids. I don't know if he's an actual influencer or just a wannabe. Like in a Home Depot, and like he is like has a bullhorn. Like sneaks up behind like just some dad in Home Depot, and just like yells in his ear. Dad doesn't know what's happening. He turns around and basically like body slams the kid on the ground and has him in like this pin. And it's like, yeah, that's what you get. You can't make someone feel like they're like being attacked somehow and not expect to get hurt. Yeah, that's what you get. And I don't know, the sooner this stuff ends, the better. And if jail sentences are what does it, then great.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was fun, Lynn. Fun, Jack. That's great. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, I think you've made solid progress towards a quasi-friend status.
I thought you were going to say made some progress in being a little more cynical.
No.
No, you're still. I did not make any progress at all. None. You've been watching Seacoast Church's Things You Won't Hear on Sunday podcast. You can now become a patron of this podcast and receive exclusive content. Your support goes towards Seacoast ministry efforts in local prisons. Also, be sure to leave us a review and subscribe to this podcast so that you get these episodes as soon as they're released. All of this information can be found in the show notes. Thanks for watching.